Hello viewers, today I am going to discuss about purines which are present in the nucleic acids. You have heard of the term nucleic acids. Nucleic acids are DNA, RNA, that is deoxyribonucleic acids or ribonucleic acids. And if you want to know much about this topic, nucleic acids, you can see my video on this topic. Now, in nucleic acids, two types of bases can be present, purines and pyrimidines. In today's lecture, I am going to discuss about purines in the nucleic acids. So, this is the purine. Here, as you can see, this is the pyrimidine ring, pyrimidine nucleus. And what about this? It is imidazole ring. So this is pyrimidine, this is imidazole. So purine is the combination of pyrimidine and imidazole nucleus. Now this is the way how we can number a purine. Start from this nitrogen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So first number the pyrimidine ring and then 7th, 8th and 9th. So this is the way how you can number a purine 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. Now the tautomers of purine. There are 4 types of tautomers which are possible in case of purine. As you can see here in the purine ring, there are 4 nitrogens present. 1, 2, 3 and 4. This is N1, this is N3, this is N7 and this is N9. If you can recollect the numbering, so this is number 1, 2, this is 3, 4, 5, 6, this is 7, 8 and 9. So the nitrogens are present at first, third, 7th and 9th position. We will write down the structure of tautomers by putting the hydrogen atom at each nitrogen one by one. In the first structure, the hydrogen atom is present at the 7th nitrogen. Okay, and then you can easily write down the position of the pi bond. So this is NH, single bond, double bond, single bond, double bond, single bond, double bond, single bond, double bond, and the single bond. Okay, so this is first tautomer. This is second. Now here the hydrogen is present at the 9th position. So now you can place the double bond accordingly. So this is NH, then single bond, double bond, single bond, double bond, single, double, single and double bond. Okay, so this is the second structure. What about the third structure? The hydrogen atom is present on N1 nitrogen. Okay, so hydrogen is present here. Now single bond, double, single, double, single and double. So this is the way how you can place the double bond in the tautomer. Now here the hydrogen is present at the third nitrogen. So you can put the double bond single, double, single, double, single, double, single and double bond. So this is the way how you can draw the tautomers. So these are the 4 tautomers of purine. Now if you can see that in the first and second, this is pyrimidine ring is present. Pyrimidine ring is an aromatic ring, so it provides stability to first and second structure. What about third and fourth structure? You can see none of the ring is aromatic in nature. Okay, so there is a loss of aromaticity, and since they are not aromatic in nature, they are less reactive, and therefore purine appears to behave completely as the tautomers of N7H and N9H. So these are the 2 possible tautomers of purine, where the hydrogen atom is present at the 7th position and here the hydrogen atom is present at the 9th position. So these are the 2 tautomers for purine. Now these are the 3 purines which we'll discuss in this video. Now this is purine which is called adenine. This purine is guanine and this is uric acid. You have to remember these structures. In adenine, NH2 group is present at the 6th position. In guanine, at 2nd position, amino group is present, and at the 6th position, oxo group is present. And in uric acid, at 2nd, 6th and 8th position, the oxo group is present. Okay. Now, out of these 3, these are the 2 purines which are present in DNA and RNA, that is nucleic acid. These 2, adenine and guanine. Now first draw the tautomers of adenine. As I told you that two types of tautomers are possible in case of purine. One is where the hydrogen is present at the 7th position, 7th nitrogen, and the other where the hydrogen atom is present at the 9th. Okay, so this is hydrogen at 7th, and adenine, as I told you, the amino group is present at the 6th position. So this is one of the tautomer. In second tautomer, as you can see here, it is numbered as 3. The hydrogen is present at the 7th position only. But here in the tautomer, as you can see, this is amino group, this is imino group. Imine, this is imine, this is amine. Amine, imine. So how it is formed? It is a tautomeric form. The lone pair of electrons of nitrogen will shift here. So there is a double bond. This bond shifts here. So this is a single bond. NH will have negative charge, and here nitrogen is neutral and it has given its electron, so it will attain positive charge. So H moves from here to here. Therefore, it is a tautomeric form because it is a movement of the hydrogen atom from this position to this position. Double bond, single bond, NH2. So this. Okay. So the amine and imine, they are tautomeric forms. So here we have drawn the tautomeric form by putting the hydrogen at the 7th position in the purine. Now take the hydrogen at the 9th position, then one as amine and another as imine. Is it okay? So there are 4 tautomers possible in case of adenine. Recap. In first and third structure, the hydrogen is present at the 7th position. Here amino group is present. Here imine is present. Now here in second and fourth, the hydrogen atom is present at the 9th position. This is amine and this is imine. And therefore these are the 4 tautomers which are present in adenine, can be shown in these 4 tautomeric forms. Now out of these 4, these 2 are the one where the pyrimidine ring is attached to it, and this is the imidazole ring. So that means it is a purine nucleus. This is not purine because here bond is not present. This is again not purine because the bond is not present. These 2 are purine structures, and in this purine, if you can recollect how we can number it, from this nitrogen. We have to start from this nitrogen and then we have to number this pyrimidine ring first. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6th. So at 6th position amino group is present. So the name of this is 6-aminopurine. So adenine is also called as 6-aminopurine. Now out of these 4 tautomers, which tautomer will exist in nucleic acid? Yes, it is the first one. So adenine is present in this form in RNA and DNA. Okay. Then these are the tautomers of guanine. This is guanine. Okay. Now you have to write on the tautomeric structure. So you have to follow the same rule as I told you. First you take the hydrogen at the 7th nitrogen and write down all the possible tautomers, and then you reverse it. To take the hydrogen at the 9th position and then draw the other structures. See, this is oxo group, that is ketonic group, and tautomer is keto will form enol. Okay, so this is ketonic group, keto group, and this is enol. You can easily draw, write down the structure. The lone pair of electrons of nitrogen will move here, and the pi electrons will move towards the oxygen. So here hydrogen moves from nitrogen to oxygen, and there is a bond here. This is double bond and this is single bond. So this comes. Okay. So the keto group gets converted into enol. So this is keto, this is enol, amine will remain as it is. Now in this case, amino group, this is enolic form and this NH2. I told you this NH2 is amine, and in the tautomeric form it gets converted into imine. So amine into imine. So here this is enol, this is imine. So here keto and amine, enol and amine, enol and imine. So now it is keto and imine. Okay, so all the 4 possible tautomers. This is the one where in all these 4 tautomers, the hydrogen atom is present at the 7th nitrogen. Now you have to draw all these 4 structures where the hydrogen is present at the 9th nitrogen. So this is nitrogen, 9th, where the hydrogen is present. This is ketonic form. This is amine form. Then in this case, it is enolic form, it is amine, then it is enol and imine, and then it is keto and imine. Okay, so by this way we can draw all the 8 tautomers possible in case of guanine. Now in this case you can see the structure second. This is pyrimidine ring, this is imidazole ring, so this is purine. Okay, and in the purine the amino group and hydroxy groups are present as a substituent. So you can easily name this purine. Yes, you know how to number it. You have to start from this nitrogen. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So at second position you have amino group. At fourth position you have hydroxy. So how to name it? 2-amino 6-hydroxy purine. Okay. Now if you have to find out that out of these 8 tautomers, which will be present in DNA and RNA. So this is the first form, the ketonic form and the amine. So ketonic and amine, this tautomer will be present in RNA and DNA. Okay, so tautomers part is over. Now we are going to discuss about the synthesis of purines. Now this is purine ring. In the purine, you have to prepare the purine derivatives. You have to do the substitution at various positions. As you have seen in adenine, you have to do the substitution at the 6th position, the amino group. In guanine, you have to do the substitution at amino group at the 2nd position and the ketonic group at the 4th position and so on. So how we can synthesize a purine? Now to decide the strategy, we will start with this molecule and what are the various possibilities. Now you draw this pyrimidine, this ring, purine ring, and see. We can cleave the molecule from here. We can cleave the molecule from here. This is the retrosynthesis. Retrosynthesis is that we know that we have to synthesize this molecule. Then what should be the starting material, from which material we have to start with to get the purine ring. Okay. So we will divide the molecule. We will do the cleavage at these positions. Now I think you can recollect that a compound which contains 2 nitrogen and 1 carbon. Nitrogen, carbon and nitrogen. This is urea. Okay. So urea or its derivative can form this part. Similarly, this part can be formed by urea and its derivatives. And this is 1, 2, 3. 3 carbon compounds. In this case, 3 carbon compounds. And in the 3 carbon compounds, since here the urea, in the urea it is NH2. See, in urea it is NH2 and NH2. So these are the nucleophilic centers. So we'll take that 3 carbon compounds where at C1 and C3 we have the electrophilic centers so that they can attack and form a ring. Okay. Then second strategy. Okay. Can you find out how we can do it? Cleave the molecule from here. That means pyrimidine ring is intact. We will start with the pyrimidine nucleus and 2 amino groups at these positions. Okay. So it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 4, 5 diamino pyrimidine. So we will start with this and then we need a compound containing single carbon atom. So 1 carbon atom compound, but that too it should be electrophilic in nature so that it can be easily attacked by these nucleophiles. Okay. And the third strategy is this, that you start with the imidazole ring and then you form the pyrimidine. So your starting material is imidazole and then you construct this pyrimidine part. This is very rare, while these two strategies are generally used. So now let's discuss the methods of synthesis one by one. So this is the first method. See, it is a second strategy where we have taken 4,5-diamino pyrimidine and we'll treat it with formic acid. Okay, so H from here, OH from here goes out as water molecule and the hydrogen is replaced by the formyl group. This is the mechanism. As you can see here, the lone pair of electrons on nitrogen will attack on the carbonyl carbon and the pi electrons will be shifting towards the oxygen. So since nitrogen is neutral, and it is giving its electrons, so it will attain positive charge. There is a bond between the nitrogen and carbon. This is single bond, O having the negative charge and OH and H. So you'll get this. Okay. And then this O negative comes back and the OH goes out as OH negative. So from here OH negative and this nitrogen is having positive charge, so it will lose proton to become neutral. So H positive and OH negative will give water molecule and this become neutral. So see. So all this is mechanism for this step, that when you treat it with the formic acid, the H, one of the H is replaced by the formyl group, CHO. This is formyl group. Then when you heat it, what will happen? The lone pair of electrons of the another nitrogen will attack on the carbon and the pi electrons will be shifted towards oxygen. So what will you get? Oxygen is having negative charge, nitrogen is neutral and it has given its electron, so it will attain positive charge. So nitrogen become neutral by losing the proton and O negative will take the proton, so it is OH and this is NH. Okay, and now the lone pair of electrons will move towards this and the OH goes out as OH negative. So from here OH negative goes out, nitrogen is neutral giving its electrons, so nitrogen will attain positive charge, so it will lose this proton. So one proton from here and OH negative from here, so there is a loss of water molecule and a double bond comes here. So this is nothing but the purine. Okay. Now here you have started with formic acid. Instead of formic acid, you can also do the reaction with thioformic acid and its sodium salt. So by either of the conditions, the steps are same and you get this purine as a product. So this is the first method. Now as you can recollect in the last, see here, this is the 8th carbon. If you can remember the numbering 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. At 8th position we have H here. Okay. So now if we want the OH at the 8th position, then we have to start with chloroformic ester, which is also called as ethyl chloroformate. Ethyl chloroformate can be used in place of formic acid. See the mechanism. H from here, Cl from here goes out as HCl. So now there is a bond between NH, CO2, C2H5. Okay. This step I hope is clear to everyone. H from here, Cl from here, so HCl and NH, CO2, C2H5. Now the lone pair of electrons of this nitrogen will attack on the carbon and the electrons, pi electrons will move towards the oxygen. So you will have NH2 positive and O negative and there is a bond between the nitrogen and carbon. And then this negative charge will come back and this goes out as C2H5O negative, ethoxide ion. And from here, nitrogen is having positive charge, so loss of proton. So there is a loss of ethanol, C2H5O negative from here, H positive from here, so ethanol, and you will get this. So you can see here that when we are starting with chloroformic ester, we end up with the ketonic group at the 8th position. Now the third synthesis. Here again we are taking 4,5-diaminopyrimidine and this is potassium isocyanate. In potassium, this is nucleophilic center. In potassium isocyanate, this is electrophilic center. So what is the first step? Yes, the lone pair of electrons will attack on the carbon and the pi electrons will be shifting towards the oxygen. So now there is a bond between this nitrogen and carbon. Okay. And this is single bond. O will have the negative charge. Nitrogen is neutral, giving electrons, so will attain positive charge. So to become neutral, it will lose proton and the K will be replaced by H. Okay. So you will get NHCO negative double bond NH. Bond between nitrogen carbon, O negative. This double bond N and H. Okay. Then the next step, this O negative, the negative charge will shift between the oxygen and carbon, between the two, and the pi electrons will move towards the nitrogen. So here there will be double bond. This is single bond. NH will have the negative charge and from the medium it will take proton and get converted into NH2. So basically what is happening is that when you treat this compound with potassium isocyanate, what is happening is the H of the amine is replaced by amide group CONH2. So you have to remember this because this reagent we will use in the next synthesis also. So you should know that when we treat it with potassium isocyanate, it is the introduction of CONH2 group. Okay. Then the lone pair of electrons will move towards the carbon and the pi electrons towards oxygen. So what will you get? There is a bond between nitrogen and carbon, positive charge here, single bond and O having the negative charge. Then the negative charge will come back, NH2 goes out as NH2 negative, NH2 negative from here, H positive from here, so loss of ammonia, and there is a double bond here. So in this method also we have generated the ketonic group at 8th position. So there are two ways by which you can generate the ketonic group at the 8th position, that is by either treating it with ethyl chloroformate or treating it with potassium isocyanate. Now this is that strategy, the last strategy, the third strategy where I told you that we will take the imidazole ring and then we create the pyrimidine ring. Okay, so this is how to name this compound. Numbering it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So at 4th position we have to write down alphabetically. So at 4th position we have amino group. At 1st position we have methyl. So 4 amino, 1 methyl. This all of you know, it is imidazole. At 5th position this is carbon amide. So at 5 carbon amide. So this is the name of this compound. When we treat it with diethyl carbonate and heat it, we get this purine where the methyl group is present at the 7th position. So it is 7-methyl purine. Now how we can show this reaction? You can show this by taking the ethyl carbonate here. This is ethyl carbonate. You can see H from here, OET from here goes out as ethanol. Similarly, H from here, OET from here goes out as ethanol. So now there is bond CO, NH, CO, NH and this. So a pyrimidine. So a purine ring is formed here. Is it okay? Now, Fischer synthesis. This is a very important synthesis to prepare the purine derivatives, and the advantage of this method is that using this method you can synthesize any type of purine derivatives. So what is a reaction? We are starting with uric acid. Later on I will tell you that how we can synthesize uric acid by using Fischer synthesis. So in all the cases we will start, the starting material in Fischer synthesis is uric acid. You treat uric acid with phosphorus oxychloride. When you treat it with this, phosphorus oxychloride, if you can recollect, help to form the keto into the enol. So to enolization, to convert the keto form in the enol form, POCl3 is used, and when the enol is formed, that OH will be replaced by the Cl. So double bond, single bond OH. So this OH is replaced by Cl. Then this lone pair will shift here, the pi electrons will shift here, so it is double bond, single bond OH, so Cl, and here this pi electrons will shift here, the lone pair will shift here and the pi electrons will shift here, so double bond, single bond OH, then it is substituted by Cl. So all these ketonic group will get converted into enolic form and then into Cl. So it is 2, as you can see, at 2nd, 6th and 8th position chloro groups are present. So it is 2,6,8 trichloropurine. Now these 3 Cl I have denoted by different colors to distinguish them. All the 3 Cl have different reactivity towards the nucleophiles. This is the order of reactivity which shows that this Cl, the red one, is most reactive. Then this blue one and the green one is the least reactive chloro group. That means if you add a nucleophile, then the first is this 6th Cl which will be replaced. Then it is the 2nd Cl and then it is the 8th Cl. And we will use this technique to prepare different purine derivatives. Let's start with this 2,6,8 trichloropurine. And let's say you have to prepare this 6-aminopurine, which you know is adenine. If you have to prepare it, then how you can do it? Now, as I told you, out of the 3 Cl, this Cl is most reactive, and at this we want NH2. That means if you treat it with NH3 ammonia, then this Cl will first react because it is most reactive of the 3. So this will give you NH2. Now you have to replace this Cl and this Cl. You have to replace both the Cls. So what will happen? This you can easily do. Cl you have to replace by hydrogen. So when you have to replace the Cl by hydrogen, you treat it, heat it with Hi. So when you heat it with Hi, the Cl will go out as, and here H comes. So this is 6-aminopurine. Now let's take another example. Let's say you have to prepare this. What is this? 2,6-dihydroxypurine. Let's say you have to prepare this. Then how will you do it? Now the most reactive position is the 6th position where OH group is present. So what will you do? You treat this with aqueous KOH. So when you will treat it with aqueous KOH, so the 6th position will be replaced by OH. Then you want at 2nd position OH. So then again treat it with aqueous KOH, you will get OH at 2nd position. And now what do you want? Replace this Cl by H. So your next step will be treatment with Hi. Okay. So in the Fischer synthesis, we will start with the uric acid. We treat it with the phosphorus oxychloride to get it converted into 2,6,8-trichloropurine. And then depending upon which purine we have to prepare, we will do the reaction accordingly. So let's see the preparation of adenine and guanine one by one. Adenine we have already discussed, but quickly recap. So this is uric acid. We treat it with phosphorus oxychloride. So we'll get 2,6,8-trichloropurine. Then we treat it with aqueous ammonia so that at the 6th position amino group comes. And then we will treat with Hi and heat it so that we get adenine. Okay, very simple reaction to prepare adenine. Now next, if we have to synthesize guanine, this step is common as I told you. You will start with uric acid, treat with its phosphorus oxychloride to get 2,6,8-trichloropurine. Now what is guanine? This is the structure for guanine. Okay. Now in guanine you can see at the 4th position you have oxygen. So if you want oxygen at the 4th position, what will you do? You will treat it with aqueous KOH. So aqueous KOH will give enolic form, and enolic form will get converted into ketonic form because guanine is this structure is the most stable. Okay. So here when you treat it with aqueous KOH, you get the ketonic form. Now what is the next step? At the 2nd position you need NH2. So what will you do? You treat it with ammonia and you will get NH2. What now? What next? This Cl we have to replace by H. So we will treat it with Hi and heat it. Is it okay? So this is a very simple method. The Fischer synthesis is a very simple method by which we can prepare different purine derivatives. Now the Fischer synthesis for uric acid. If you have to prepare uric acid, because in Fischer synthesis I told you we will always start the Fischer synthesis by uric acid. So this is a common way, the method by which you will prepare uric acid, and from uric acid you can proceed as we have discussed. So uric acid, here we will take urea, and this is malonic acid. Now this is the first strategy which we have followed. If you can recollect, in the first strategy to prepare the purine, we have to take urea and its derivatives and 3 carbon compounds in which at the 1st position and the 3rd position the electrophilic groups are present. So you can see here in urea you have these two. This is urea unit and this is 3 carbon compound where the electrophilic groups are present at the 1st and 3rd position. So in presence of POCl3, again phosphorus oxychloride, H from here, OH from here goes out as water molecule. Same H from here, OH from here goes out as water molecule. So what is this? CO, NH, CO, CH2, CO, NH. So you get this. This is barbituric acid. Okay. And then when you treat it with the nitrous acid, you will get oxime at the 5th position. This part you have already done in active methylene compounds where the barbituric acid is synthesized and various reactions of barbituric acids were discussed. Then you reduce it by ammonium hydrogen sulfide. So by using ammonium hydrogen sulfide, the oxime gets converted into amino group. So this is voluric acid and this is uranyl. All these reactions you have already done in active methylene compounds. Then The uramyl, you will treat it with KNCO, potassium isocyanate. I told you there are two ways by which you can bring about the oxygen at the 8th position. One is by using ethyl chloroformate and second is by using potassium isocyanate. So in the Fischer synthesis, we take help of the potassium isocyanate to prepare the to bring about the oxygen at the 8th position. And what is the role of KNCO? I told you it brings about CONH2. So to introduce CONH2, we'll take KNCO, potassium isocyanate. So you'll get amide group here. Mechanism part we have already discussed. And then when you heat it in 20% HCl, so in acidic medium, there's a loss of water molecule and you get uric acid. Now see the mechanism, how the reaction takes place. The lone pair of electrons available on nitrogen will attack on this carbon and the pi electrons will shift it towards the oxygen. So there is a bond between this carbon and nitrogen. From here there is a loss of proton and here since it is having negative charge, O negative, so it takes proton. So this is a ring is formed. Here the ring is formed and OH here and H here. So H from here, OH from here goes out as water molecule and a double bond comes here. So this is the way by which you can get uric acid. Again, a quick recap. The lone pair of electrons available on this nitrogen will attack on the carbonyl carbon and the pi electrons will be shifted towards oxygen. So this is single bond O having the negative charge. This will lose protons. So this will take protons. This is OH. So there is a bond between the two, carbon and nitrogen, and OH here and H is here. So H from here, OH from here goes out as water molecule and a double bond comes here. So this is uric acid. So this is the way how we can synthesize uric acid in Fischer synthesis. Now this is the sixth method to synthesize the purine derivatives and it is a Tropsch synthesis. This synthesis is again very important because this method you can use to synthesize any type of purine derivatives. And here the starting material, again you can see it is the first strategy which we have discussed. Here we are taking urea derivatives and here we are taking 3 carbon compounds with electrophilic groups at the first and the third position. Now here we can change the groups. Here the urea derivatives, as I mentioned, urea derivatives and it is X here. So you can have O, then it is urea, S then thiourea, NH2 then guanidine. We'll discuss later on again. And here also the inactive methylene compound, you can change the group. So depending upon which purine we have to synthesize, we can change the starting material. So first let's discuss the mechanism for the Tropsch synthesis and then we will see that how we can decide that which starting material we have to take if we have to synthesize a particular purine. So now let's see, this is urea derivatives and this is the active methylene compound. Reaction take place in presence of sodium ethoxide and you get this. Now what is the mechanism? A quick mechanism. The lone pair of electrons on the nitrogen will attack on this carbon and one of the pi electrons will move towards nitrogen. Similarly, the lone pair of electrons will attack here and the one of the pi electrons will move here. So now there is a bond between the two here. This is double bond. This is N negative and here there is a positive charge. So it will lose proton. It will take proton. So this is NH, single bond, double bond, NH. Same way here, NH, single bond, double bond, NH. So you get this. I hope I am clear to everyone. So there is a bond between the nitrogen and the carbon. And this is double bond. Nitrogen having negative charge. Here nitrogen is having positive charge. So it will lose proton. This will gain proton. So you'll get this. Same way here. So you get this compound. And then this you can easily convert it into this. Lone pair of electrons on nitrogen will move here. Pi electrons towards nitrogen. So this is single bond, double bond, single bond NH2. Same way here. But from here this H. This H goes out. So H, this bond shifts here and this bond shifts here. This is an active methylene compound. So in presence of sodium ethoxide, the loss of this is very easy because this CH2 is very reactive in nature. And therefore the loss of the proton takes place to give you this amine. And then when you treat it with nitrous acid followed by ammonium hydrogen sulfide, what is the role of nitrous acid? To introduce nitroso group here, NO. Nitroso group comes here. When you treat it with ammonium hydrogen sulfide, you will get NH2. So what will you get? This. Now if you can recollect, we have reached and from here to get the product, we have seen so many methods. So it is 4,5-diaminopyrimidine as we have seen, but here the NH2 group is also present here. Now what is happening? You treat it with the formic acid. This mechanism we have already done. When we treat it with the formic acid, then there is introduction of formyl group. So formyl group comes here. Mechanism part we have already done. And then when we heat it with sodium salt of formic acid, that is sodium formate, then we will get this purine. Okay. This part I am not discussing in the details because this part we have already done when we have done the synthesis of purine derivatives. Now, if you can recollect, we have started with urea derivative. Here we have started with melanonitrile and we get this purine. Okay. So this X is this X and this nitrogen is here and this nitrogen is here. That means this part comes from this urea derivative. Okay. This part. What about this part? The nitrogen, if you can recollect, in the mechanism we have discussed, the lone pair of electrons will attack on the carbon and the pi electrons will shift it towards the oxygen. So this carbon is this carbon and this nitrogen is this nitrogen. So this is the part of the purine. This CN comes from this CN. Okay, this CN is in this form and this CH2 is here at the 5th position and this is the 6th carbon and this nitrogen is the amino group which is present at the 6th carbon. Am I clear? So this part, urea part, is this part. Okay, and this carbon is this one, the 4th carbon. CH2 carbon is the 5th carbon and this CN is the 6th carbon and the NH2 is due to this nitrogen. Okay. So that means first take the urea derivative, that if I want oxygen here, then I will start with urea. Yes. If I want NH2 here, NH here, then I will start with NH2 here. So depending upon which type of purine I want, I can change the urea derivative. What about this? We have seen that this CH2, CN, CH2, then this C. This is the purine ring part only. So this N, if I want amino group at the 6th position, then I will take CN. But let's take I want OH here, enol, or you can say keto form here. Then I have to take the ester here. Rather than nitrogen, I have to take oxygen. So the electrophilic carbon will be then ester. So instead of CN, I can take ester. That means that if we have to decide what are the various urea derivatives which we can take in crop synthesis, it can be urea, it can be thiourea, and it can be guanidine. And in active methylene compounds, I can take melanonitrile if I want the nitrogen at the 6th position, and if I want the oxygen at the 6th position, then I have to take ethyl cyanoacetate. You know, this is ethyl acetate and cyano group is present here. So it is ethyl cyanoacetate. So depending upon which type of purine we have to synthesize, we can select our starting material. Now let's discuss the trop synthesis for adenine. This is adenine. Okay, in adenine we want amino group at the 6th position. That means the active methylene part will be melanonitrile. Okay, and the urea part, this part, the urea part, I don't want anything. In adenine we don't want anything. Here hydrogen, we need hydrogen. So it is easier to get hydrogen if we start with the thio compound. So here if we have to carry out the reaction, we will take thiourea and we will take melanonitrile. So now let's start the reaction. So this is thiourea, this is melanonitrile. Sodium ethoxide is used and you know how to write down the product. This we have already seen the mechanism. So you get this. Then what is the next step? We treat it with nitrous acid. You treat it with ammonium hydrogen sulfide, and at the 5th position you will get amino group. And then the next step, you treat it with the formic acid. So you will get the formyl group at the 5th nitrogen. And then you heat it with sodium formate and you get purine. Now here, the difference between this compound and adenine is that we don't want sulfur here. We want hydrogen here. So how we can do that? Do this reaction by using hydrogen peroxide. So when you treat it with hydrogen peroxide, the sulfur goes out and you get adenine. So this is the method by which you can get adenine. So if the Tropsch synthesis is clear to everyone, you can easily select the reactant depending upon which purine we have to synthesize, and then we can easily write down the steps because all the steps are similar. Now let's take, we have to synthesize this guanine. Okay, now in the guanine at the 6th position we have oxo group, the ketonic group. That means I will start with ethyl cyanoacetate because I want ketonic group at the 6th position. And what about this part? In this part we have NH2 here, that means guanidine. So our starting material will be guanidine and ethyl cyanoacetate. So now let's start. This is guanidine, this is ethyl cyanoacetate, and this is sodium ethoxide. You will get this. Mechanism already discussed. Simple. Lone pair of electrons will attack here. The pi electrons will move here. So a bond with double bond NH, and then H here, OET here. So a bond with CO. So this is CONH and this CH2 active methylene. So H from here and will move out to form the amino group. This amino. So this mechanism we have already done. So now we will treat it with nitrous acid and ammonium hydrogen sulfide. So we'll get NH2 at the 5th position, and then we will treat it with the formic acid. So we'll get the formyl group here, and then you heat it with sodium formate and you will get guanine. So it is a very simple method, the Tropsch synthesis. Only thing is that we have to decide what should be the starting material. Now let's discuss the synthesis of uric acid. If you have to synthesize uric acid, this is the uric acid. If you have to synthesize this, how you can do that? By Tropsch synthesis. Again, see, here this part is urea part. You want the oxo group at the 2nd position. So therefore it is urea, and you want the oxo group again at the 6th position. So then you have to take ethyl cyanoacetate. Very good. So we will take urea, we will take ethyl cyanoacetate, and we'll get this. So when we treat it with NaOH, you get this imine, and this imine by tautomerase, you get amine. Okay. You can write down in the single step or you can write down step by step. And then treat it with nitrous acid, you get nitroso. Then reduce nitroso by ammonium hydrogen sulfide, you get NH2. Now the main thing here which we have to taken into account is that here in the uric acid we want the oxygen at the 8th position as well. In adenine and guanine we don't want that. Therefore we have started with formic acid and its sodium salt. But here we want that. So what we will do, we will treat it with ethyl chloroformate. If you can recollect, I told in the starting that if we want the oxygen at the 8th position, there are two ways by which we can do it, by using ethyl chloroformate or by using potassium isocyanate. So here in the Tropsch synthesis, there is the role of ethyl chloroformate. So by treating it with ethyl chloroformate, the ester group is introduced, and then when you heat it, as you can see, OET from here, H from here goes out as ethanol, and you get uric acid. Okay, so I hope this Tropsch synthesis clear it to everyone. Now one more thing, that if we treat it with urea, you can see here NH2, NH2. If you take urea molecules, so NH2, CO, NH2. So 2 NH2 here, 2 NH2 here. So loss of ammonia molecule from here, loss of ammonia molecule from here, and you get uric acid. So from this compound, either you treat it with urea and get the uric acid, or you treat it with ethyl chloroformate, get this, and then you heat it to get uric acid. So these are the two ways by which you can prepare the uric acid. So this is all about the purines. I hope everything is clear to everyone. Now for the details of pyrimidines and nucleic acids, you can watch my videos on these topics. Thank you for watching.